The noise. I don't know when it started exactly, but I noticed it a few nights ago. It was still early, between 6:30 and 7 p.m. I was watching TV in the living room when I heard this noise. It was low, going talk, talk, with an interval of about 3 seconds between each talk. At first, I thought it was my 3-year-old nephew breaking something secretly, but the noise was coming from the house's entrance, which was dark. It couldn't be my nephew, because he's afraid of the dark. I realized the noise was coming from under the car, so it was most likely some jumping animal like a grasshopper or a frog under the car trying to get out, hitting the car's bottom as it jumped. My suspicion seemed confirmed when I turned on the garage light and looked under the car. I didn't see anything, but the noise stopped, just like crickets stop chirping when you approach them, and resumed when I turned off the light and left. What an annoying bug, I thought. All I could do was turn up the TV volume and try to ignore the noise, but even with the TV volume high enough for others in the house to complain, I still heard the noise. Out of sheer stubbornness, I decided to watch the movie until the end, despite the noise bothering me. Then, I decided to go to my room to distance myself further. It worked for a while. I read a bit, then stayed on my phone until I felt sleepy. When sleep came, I turned off the bedroom light and fell asleep. I don't know what time it was when I woke up in the middle of the night. I didn't check because it didn't matter. I just wanted to go back to sleep as I had to get up early for work. But before I could fall asleep again, I heard it. It was the same noise as before, but a bit louder, as if the source was closer. But it couldn't be the same. It wouldn't make sense. My room was next to the backyard, opposite the entrance. My bedroom window is near the backyard faucet, so I thought this new noise was water hitting the bottom of a bucket from a dripping faucet. I tried to ignore it and fall back asleep, but the noise, though not loud, was distracting. It was irritating enough that I jumped out of bed to check the faucet, and to my surprise, it wasn't dripping. I checked the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink, the shower, and even the toilet flush tank. Nothing was dripping. With no apparent success, I went back to my room and noticed the noise had stopped, at least for now. I lay down, grabbed my blanket, turned on the fan, and as soon as I turned off the light, the noise returned, and this time it was inside the room. One last possible explanation came to mind. The fan might have a broken gear, and that noise was the gear clicking. Anyone who has held a fan still out of curiosity or another reason knows the gears click when you do that. Testing this hypothesis scared me for the first time. The moment I turned on the light to examine the fan, the noise stopped. The fan was still on and didn't make any clicking sounds like the talks of the noise. And a few seconds after I turned off the light, it came back. The noise could only be heard in the dark. I remembered the noise under the car stopped when I turned on the garage light. There was no noise when I was reading with the bedroom light on. The backyard noise stopped when I opened the window to check the faucet. When I checked the kitchen and bathroom faucets, there was no noise because the bedroom light was on, and the noise resumed when I turned it off. I started getting paranoid. My room has a switch next to the bed, so I could turn the light on and off without getting up. I started doing this several times, and the result was always the same. The noise stopped when the light was on and returned when it was off. This noise is just an insect that got into the room when I opened the window. I wanted to believe that. It was the only logical explanation possible. In a childish instinct of self-preservation, I covered my face entirely with the blanket, telling myself I was doing it to avoid being bitten by the insect, and slept with the light on. The next day, there was no more noise. I woke up late and didn't have time to look for the insect, but I promised myself that when I got back from work, that damn bug would get a good swat. When I arrived, to my mother's satisfaction, I cleaned the whole room with the intention of finding the bug that kept me awake at night. I found 4 cockroaches, 2 crickets, and many moths, but nothing of the insect making that noise. I imagined it had fled while I was at work. At least my night would be peaceful, I thought. The beginning of the night was quite calm. Just as a precaution, I left the garage light on and didn't hear anything until 9 p.m. It was still a bit early to sleep. I usually go to bed at 10:30 p.m., but I felt sleepy early, perhaps from not having slept enough the night before. I went to bed and stayed on my phone until I was entirely sleepy, intending to force myself to sleep through the night without waking up again. When sleep came, I even considered leaving the light on but thought it was silly. I had checked the whole room in the afternoon, and there were no bugs. I turned off the light and fell asleep. The plan didn't work very well. I couldn't sleep through the night. I woke up, and there it was. The same noise seemed to be inside the room somewhere on top of the wardrobe. I turned on the light and climbed a chair to look on top of the wardrobe, but I found nothing. When the light went off, the noise was under the bed, then under the table, and then behind the fan. Every time I turned on the light, the noise changed places. I was starting to get scared. I was developing theories about it being a paranormal phenomenon. I tried to convince myself it wasn't some kind of ghost because, in ghost stories, people always claim to feel presences as if someone is nearby or watching. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel any presence. I just heard the noise. Having nothing else to do, I decided to sleep, or at least try. I covered myself entirely with the blanket, including my face, closed my eyes, and lay still, waiting for sleep. To prove to myself that the noise was nothing serious, I decided to turn off the light to sleep. The noise returned, and this time it was right above me, on the other side of the blanket. This made me nervous. That definitely wasn't an insect. I tried to stay still, but the fear was stronger. I started to tremble, and surprisingly, the noise stopped. For a moment, I thought I would be attacked by the imaginary monster I had created in my mind, but nothing major happened. It only resumed from a farther point as if my movement had made it retreat. At that moment, I realized it wasn't exactly the light. It was my presence that made it stop. It hid when I looked for it. It was a kind of teasing game. Whatever was making the noise only did so from a safe distance or when it thought I was asleep. I felt like the sleepy guard in a 90s comedy. When I moved, the noise stopped. When I stopped, it resumed. It was like a child afraid I would wake up and catch it in the act of a prank. This gave me some courage because it seemed afraid of me, but it also worried me because I finally convinced myself that whatever was making the noise knew what it was doing. I even consulted a psychiatrist, fearing I was having hallucinations, but the tests indicated my mental health was perfect. I researched rituals to expel ghosts and supernatural creatures, but nothing worked. The situation only worsened because, after them, the noise realized I knew about it, that I knew it was a thinking being. It stopped hiding. It no longer waits for the night, for me to sleep, or for the light to go out. The noise now bothers me all day. I'm no longer afraid, but the noise still irritates me. I can't work or sleep properly. Wherever I go, the noise follows me. I don't know what's causing it, an angel, a demon, a ghost, an elf, or an ET. I just want this damn noise to stop.